right. Great. Well, we're live on Facebook. So I wanted to welcome everyone on the call today who's watching us. And I'm just checking. Hang on, let me just see if we can see that we're running in the group. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Just checking our live is running. And yes, we're good. Okay, great. So I've got Marsha with me today.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Really well, thank you.
Excellent.
Really well.
Excellent. So today, Marsha, I'm really glad you've jumped on the call. So we just wanted to do a little call today and share some information that actually I discovered this week, and I thought it was fascinating information and probably very useful to many people. It's a new research on Parkinson's and where the disease actually originates from. And so I'm just going to read a little bit from this article. It's actually from Dr. McCullough. It was published just this year, a few months ago this year, on the topic of Parkinson's. And what they're actually saying, and this will come as no surprise to you because you're really big on this, Marsha, with your page, Autoimmune, Healing Autoimmune Naturally. So the new research shows that actually Parkinson's disease originates in the gut. And it says that your gut's an overall key player in health. And it is a big risk in determining your chronic conditions like heart disease, obesity, sleep problems, and depression. Parkinson's disease, a central nervous system disorder that causes symptoms such as tremors, balance problems, has long been a disease of idiopathic origins, meaning there's no cause. However, recent research published in the Journal of Neuron is now challenging this notion and saying that the disease of Parkinson's may actually originate in the cells of the gut and travel to the brain via the vagus nerve on the 10th cranial nerve that runs from your brainstem right down to your abdomen. And so if this is the case, and the new research is suggesting that to be the case, it opens up new avenues for treatment and prevention. So obviously the first thing would be you'd want to bolster your gut health. And so it's not just Parkinson's, is it, Marsha, that you've discovered that you believe that is strongly linked to gut health as well?
Absolutely, 100%. Autoimmune, a lot of people don't understand or realise that autoimmune is actually a gut health issue, and more in particular, it's a leaky gut issue. So whenever we want to heal something, naturally, we need to look at our gut first. It's absolutely, definitely a link, I believe, and I'm not the only one that believes that Parkinson's is autoimmune, and autoimmune starts in the gut. So yes, you're right on about that.
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. So, so they've done lots of studies. They've shown that with mice, they've been able to replicate the symptoms and impact the nerve going from the gut to the brain. So I'm just going to scroll down this article. So what are the other things aside from gut health? Now, let me just pull up a couple of points. So before the onset of symptoms, and let me just read this part here. Sorry, I've got a few pages here, so I'm going to be shuffling some papers. So excuse me just for a quick second. So I was just going to read it out, but I remember what it said. It said that one of the main symptoms that people have before the onset of Parkinson's, and it will happen many, many years before it, is the person suffering from constipation. And so obviously, if you're constipated, that's affecting your gut microbiome and your good and bad bacteria, because obviously, you know, you need to be going to the toilet, you know, regularly, ideally at least once a day, even twice a day is good. And so that can impact it a lot too. So what do you think about that finding, Marsha?
Well, what's interesting is when we have leaky gut, Katie, the issue with that is basically it means we have holes in our gut. So when we have holes in our gut, we have undigested food particles, gut bacteria, viruses, parasites, heavy metals, all of those things are going into our bloodstream. So what happens then is the immune system goes in to attack that invasion. And part of the immune system's job is to protect the cells from any type of toxins, which is what this invasion is to the immune system. So it goes in to attack this invasion. At the same time, its job is to protect the cells, and it does this with water. So it will surround the cells with water to protect the cells from the invasion of these toxins, and it gets this water from the gut.
Right.
So that's why a lot of people end up with constipation, and that's exactly what I had as well.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and then of course the other thing is with the constipation is because there's so many food intolerances going on and problems with digestion, food gets limited. And then of course one of the key things that people need in their diet is fiber. And so without enough fiber, of course, then the food's not going through. So that's really interesting as well. The other thing that the article points out is that pesticides is also linked to Parkinson's. They said that the exposure to external toxins like pesticides is strongly linked to Parkinson's disease and may actually increase the risk by 80% in some cases. I mean, this is a really very big one. I mean, if you think about Roundup, which is commonly used in industry, in agriculture, and sprayed on crops to protect the crops from, bugs and obviously the problem with that is it's very toxic. It's carcinogenic. There's been lots of stories in the news recently that, they've now been court cases taking the company that produces Roundup to court, and they've actually won, showing that it is linked to cancer. It does cause cancer. So it's no surprise, I guess, that not only, you can imagine if it's causing cancer, it's irritating the gut lining like crazy. And that's also been pointed out, what I've just mentioned here with Parkinson's disease. But actually, it's Bayer is the company that owns the brand of Roundup. And the other thing is, you want to avoid all those pesticides and toxins as well, because it's not just Parkinson's, it's all the other things that go along with it, all the autoimmune conditions. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, exactly. You're right, Katie. There's so many toxins that we're surrounded by. So a lot of them, not just pesticides on our foods, but also, toxins that we breathe in. There's bugs in our water. It's on our food. It's in mold. We're surrounded by mold. There's spores in the air. You can't really avoid it. Of course, we need to try to do our best to protect our bodies and support the immune system. And there are definitely several supplements available to do that. If you'd like to know more, please do contact me. There is, or yourself, Katie, there is one in particular. It's a seaweed supplement, and it's the one that I use is 8 times stronger than any other one in the world. And it actually increases the immune system by 400% in 12 days.
Wow.
It's so incredibly powerful that it stops blood flow to tumours. So, there are other things that we can do to support our immune system, and that is, like you said, diet. Definitely our diet contributes greatly to poor gut health, and we want to make sure that we avoid a parasitic environment. So we need to make sure we're taking a really good symbiotic. We also need to make sure that we are fighting toxins with antioxidants and mineral supplements and things like that. So that's where I would suggest people start, is supporting the immune system, but also at the same time stopping the exposure to the toxins, and also taking supplements to support the body's natural biochemical process to heal itself. Yeah.
Fantastic. And there's some great tips there. And the other thing people can do, so obviously, it would be desirable to eat organic. Now, a lot of people can't afford to buy organic produce to avoid those sprays and the Roundup and all the pesticides. So the next best thing would be to buy some sort of veggie wash. And we know of a really good brand of product, and those watching the call, many of you know about it. And so this particular product, you can wash your fruit and vegetables in it, and it removes the residue on the outside of those vegetables and fruits that contains all those nasty chemicals. So that's a really good suggestion, I think, for people who are concerned about being exposed and wanting to take action.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so this article goes on. So if you are interested in the article, it's on Dr. McCullough's website. And it's got some tips for lowering your Parkinson's risk. So there's a couple of do's and don'ts, and I just want to go through them to share with you on the call today, because I think it's really valuable information for people to know. So the do's is eat plenty of fermented food, fermented foods, fermented grass-fed kefir, natto, which is a fermented soy, and fermented vegetables. And the avoid, which they're suggesting, is avoid antibiotics unless absolutely necessary. And when you do take antibiotics, make sure you reseed your gut with fermented foods and or a high quality probiotic. And in the case that Marsha's been talking about, a symbiotic, which is a pre and probiotic. So those are two really useful tips for the gut health. And did you want to comment on any of those? Oh, I've lost your sound. You're muted.
Sorry. Particularly on the symbiotic, I'd like to comment because, you know, often when people do take antibiotics, their doctor may sometimes suggest that they take a course of probiotics afterwards, and that information is correct. But the problem is if you've taken 1 or 2 courses of antibiotics, and also depending on the strength of the antibiotic that you're taking and what your immune system is like at the time, if you then take a probiotic after that, it's pretty much you've got expensive urine, because the prebiotics is food for the probiotics. So if you are lacking in a good natural balance of the ecosystem and gut balance, the probiotics in your gut, then you're wasting it. So you really need to supplement with a good symbiotic, which is a mixture of the pre and probiotics together, so that the probiotic has food. The food is the prebiotic for the probiotic. That's why it's so incredibly important. So make sure that whenever you do have a course of antibiotics, that you follow up with a good quality symbiotic.
Excellent advice. And, you know, it really should be routine that doctors are recommending that. And if you go and speak to your pharmacist when you have been prescribed an antibiotic, they will advise you to take one and take a double dose as well to try and counter balance, I guess, the effects of the antibiotics. So the next one we've got here to avoid is conventionally raised meats and other animal products, as CAF animals are routinely fed low doses of antibiotics. So we're getting exposure to antibiotics through the meats that we're eating, depending on what you're eating. So then the do is boost your soluble and insoluble fiber. So increase your vegetables, nuts, seeds, and sprouted seeds. So we had a conversation the other day, which was really good, about fiber, and we looked at the different foods that are high in fiber and low in fiber and picked out some key ones. So do you want to share with people on the call the key ones that you take to help boost your fiber, the key foods?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, fiber has been extremely important for me for my gut health and to stay regular. A lot of people become quite constipated when they add extra fiber to their diet, but that just means you're not drinking enough water. So just make sure that when you do increase your fiber intake, that you're also increasing the amount of water that you drink. If you're having too much of a fatty diet and not enough fiber, you will experience things like irritable bowel syndrome, but especially diarrhea. So some of the foods that I really like to include in my regime are things like bananas, lots of fruit and vegetables, but also I'm trying to think of the name, chia seed pudding. I like to make a chia seed pudding for myself in the mornings. There's lots of recipes on the internet, or you can contact me for mine, that's fine. And then having that with some fruit in the morning. So I would suggest making a mixture with about 80 grams of chia seeds. And then once you add your nut milks or your rice milk or whatever you're adding to make it into a pudding, that you then divide it into 4 little ramekins, so that you have 4 breakfasts, which is so great to make that in advance. And it's quite easy, and it's really inexpensive. It's going to deliver a lot of fiber. 2 slices of bread a day. Make sure it's a good quality gluten-free bread. If you're in Australia and you shop at Coles or Woolworths, I mean, I don't recommend that you buy shop bought, but the best one that I have found in the supermarket that's affordable is one called Genius. So the brown bread genius, if you have 2 slices of that a day, that's 7.5 grams. So women need 25 grams of fibre a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 7.5 alone. 1 avocado a day is 10 grams of fibre.
Yeah,
So
wow.
if you have 2 pieces of bread with an avocado, and you may not put the whole avocado on, but just scoop the rest out and eat it. Pop a bit of salt on there and just eat it. So if you're having 1 avocado, 2 pieces of bread, and a chia seed pudding, you've got your entire fibre intake daily. So there's lots of other fibre options that are available on the internet. So maybe just Google what the best ones are. I think vegetable juicing is a really good one, but make sure that if you do vegetable juice that you keep the fibre in. So I like to use my Ninja and just keep blitzing it until it's, fine enough for me to drink the whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my little input there about fibre, Katie.
Oh, fantastic. That's great information for everyone watching. So the other tips on here is avoiding chlorinated or fluoridated water. And so, fluoridation of water actually destroys the good bacteria in the gut. So people who are drinking tap water and think it's fine, personally, my opinion, and based on the research, it's absolutely not fine because of, that's just one thing, the chlorine. So the other things I say is, obviously avoid processed foods. So, sugars, artificial colors and flavors, and try and eat organic, which we already touched on. Open your windows. So, having fresh airflow in your house, they say, is also important. So we already talked about the Roundup as well. And it says not to overuse antibacterial soaps as well. They can have a negative effect, contribute to the development of antibiotic resistance, according to research. So that's all really interesting. So some good tips in there. So what did you think about all that?
Oh, look, fluoride is one of the, topics that I love talking about. It's in our water, it's in our toothpaste, and it's a neurotoxin. So it's really, really bad news. So make sure that, if you go out there looking for a toothpaste, that it doesn't have fluoride in it. And people might argue that point and say, well, but fluoride's really good for your teeth. And I don't disagree. Fluoride is good for your teeth if it's applied by a dentist, but it's not good for your body. It's not good for your organs. And it also is a big contributor to gut health issues and leaky gut because it's a toxin. So, wherever we go, wherever we look, we are surrounded by toxins, environmental, food, in our water. So it's just really educating yourself about, what the best things we can do for our health and take our power back and heal ourselves, really.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just about making a switch. I mean, you're already using some of these things. Just look for a safer option, a healthier, safer option. And, it does take a little bit of work because you do need to do a little bit of research and find something that you're happy with.
Yes.
But as Marsha said, we've got a lot of great products. And if you'd like to know about any products that could support your body, then get in touch with either Marsha or me. But we just wanted to talk about that subject today because I thought that research was fascinating, and just to share that about Parkinson's. Actually, it was interesting because a friend of a friend's I shared that with, and whose family member had Parkinson's, and they said that that family member had actually suffered from constipation. So it would be interesting now that they've found that research for them to go out and do a survey and find out all those that are suffering from the condition, how many of them have suffered from that. But, obviously it wouldn't just be about the constipation. It's about getting back to having that healthy gut bacteria and that balance, obviously, as well as going to the toilet regularly and just keeping it all healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about protecting ourselves. And, look, disease can show up in different ways for different people. For me, it was fibromyalgia and then MS, but another person might end up having thyroid problems. Another person might end up having Parkinson's or all sorts of other illnesses. God, there's so many of them. There's like 100 autoimmune diseases around, but all of them are linked to gut health. And, I'm definitely proof of that. I was severely unwell, very chronically ill for 7 years. To a point where I was almost about to give up, and I changed my diet, and and healed my gut. And within 4 months, all my symptoms were gone.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I was really severely, very, very fast declining, and felt like I would, if I give up, and I was very close, I thought if I give up, I will fall onto the floor and I will not be able to get back up. That's how much strength it took for me at the end to stay well.
Yeah.
And it was affecting my brain. And I did have the shakes really, really bad, because all of the heavy metals were entering my bloodstream through the leaky gut. So the foods that we eat, this is actually quite interesting too, is that the foods that we eat actually naturally supply us with the nutrients that we need, the vitamins and nutrients, but also their job is to detoxify our bodies. So some of these foods are actually naturally drawing out the heavy metals from our liver, which is great, and it's meant to be that way. But the problem is, if we've got leaky gut, those heavy metals and toxins end up in our bloodstream. So the first port of call is always healing your gut lining and rebalancing your gut with the symbiotics, as I mentioned before. So, and then it's just a matter of taking a few other supplements, maybe three or four that I could recommend that would help somebody to basically reset their body and to get all their organs functioning properly again. And then after that, really looking at your diet long term and making sure that you are doing a maintenance program regarding supplements so that you don't go back to square one.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, that's great information. Thank you for sharing that. I just thought I'll finish with sharing a medical disclaimer. So obviously, if you are unwell or you're sick, please consult a health professional and follow their advice. And the opinions that, Marsha and I are sharing today are our personal opinions based on the research that we've shared from Dr. McCullough's site, and he's got lots of interesting articles. I like him because he does a balance of both, both natural medicine and traditional medicine. So combining the two together, a very integrated approach. So excellent. So thank you for being on the call today. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this information, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katie.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks, Marsha.